Good afternoon and welcome to this edition of the EQ Lunch and Learn series. My name is Mucha Mlingo and I am delighted to be your host this afternoon. I've been sweating for the last 10 or so minutes because for some strange reason, our link was not working. And I've had to practice emotional intelligence behind the scenes as I've had to set up a new link so that we can continue with the program. Well, we are here. Apologies that we're running a little late. Unfortunately, there are times where technology lets you down a little, but the great thing is that you can pick yourself up and make a plan B. So this is our plan B. Unfortunately, our link to LinkedIn is not working. So we're streaming on YouTube and on Facebook. And hopefully the message will get to all those who were tuned in on LinkedIn that they will have to move to YouTube or Facebook for today's event. Apologies for any inconvenience that may cause. I can see that my team are now with me. We had to very quickly create a new link and stream the program to a new destination. So apologies. And hopefully as we settle in, you will find us, you will join in for today's conversation. Have you ever felt you're qualified for a particular job, fit to lead a project, or ready for a promotion because you have extensive experience and highly developed technical skills? Well, you might be technically qualified, but I'm here to tell you that it turns out, whilst those technical skills are key to your success at work, in and of themselves, they are not enough. It is also essential that you have heightened people skills. In a Wall Street Journal of nearly 900 executives, 92% said soft skills were equally important or more important than technical skills. And here's the thing, 89% said that they have a very or somewhat difficult time finding people with the requisite attributes. And so many of us are great technically, but we are not so great on the soft skills. And today we're going to be exploring, as we settle into life after COVID, or maybe we can call it life with COVID, what are the skills that are essential for the year ahead? Welcome again to this PTS Africa EQ Lunch and Learn series. This is a platform developed to provide professionals with insight into how they can utilize emotional intelligence as a skill to successfully navigate the challenges and changes that we face in the year ahead. This series is a monthly conversation for professionals who want to get practical insights about emotional intelligence and learn how it can be more important than IQ for career growth, gain an understanding on how to utilize emotions as a strategic resource to navigate through the challenges faced in the workplace, and receive tools to build the emotional muscle necessary to thrive in these uncertain and unpredictable times. I'm not having this conversation with myself. I have three amazing panelists who are with me here today. Let me introduce each of them to you. I have with me Robert Bell. Robert Bell is an award-winning transformational speaker, author, and ACCA qualified accountant. Robert helps people who feel stuck in their career or life journey to break away from the norm and find new paths that reveal their true value. He focuses on dismantling the line between licensed professionals and the creative world. Robert is the CEO of SMIP Consultancy, and he champions for the support and development of SMEs and chairs the ACCA Kenya's SME Forum. If you would like to connect with Robert as a result of today's conversation, I'm going to share Robert's LinkedIn page and you can connect with him there. I also have with me today Lillian Gala. Lillian, over 15 years ago, started a professional journey, one that will take her across diverse industries and finally land her on her favorite one of all. She is a renowned human resource professional with considerable contribution in policy formation, talent management, workforce planning, coaching and mentoring, culture management, among other HR agenda in Kenya. Lillian lists passion, drive, and quest for knowledge as what made her from scratch. She is currently the group head of human resources at Diamond Trust Bank and sits on several boards. To learn more about Lillian, again, you can connect with her on LinkedIn, and I am going to share a link to her LinkedIn profile. Last but not least, I have with me Reynolds Owo, an experienced talent consultant with over 3 years of experience in recruitment, career development, and talent management. He currently works at a global recruitment firm and is specialized in recruiting senior level executives. Apart from that, Reynolds runs his own creative agency known as Legendary Creatives that works with African organizations to help tell their African story. He is passionate about youth leadership and supporting young people to develop their career journey, and is in the process of setting up a youth-focused career journey platform called Kazi Talks. If that was not enough, in his spare time, Reynolds works as a commercial model and has been featured on a couple of notable commercials, including Captain Morgan and the Standard Chartered. I told you, I have a fantastic panel with me this afternoon, and I'm going to invite them to join me on screen as we have this conversation about the skills necessary to thrive in 2021 and beyond. So welcome to my panel. I'm delighted to have each one of you here with me, and I'm looking forward to the conversation that we are going to have. Now, you were with me, Vaccine, as I was taking deep breaths and trying not to panic. I think hopefully you saw EQ in action as I was, trying not to panic when we were failing to connect and go live on time. I am a stickler for time management, and so I can assure you it was causing me extreme stress when we were unable to connect. But I'm really delighted to have you here, and I'm looking forward to the conversation that we're going to have. Considering the fact that we started a bit late, let's dive in and have the conversation. I want to start with a question to each of you. And, we'll start with Reynolds, but I want each of you to tell me your thoughts on this idea of people skills and soft skills, because these are words that are thrown about quite a bit. If asked, I would say that people skills are the various attributes and competencies that allow individuals to play well with others at work. Reynolds, let's start with you. What would your definition of people skills be?
Thank you so much, Much. I'm excited to be here with you guys. I think for me, what soft skills means is the non-technical skills that allow you to relate and influence how you work with other people. So skills they're very hard to quantify, and they include skills like communication skills, leadership skills, negotiation skills, such type of skills that allow you to sort of relate with other people in a work setting. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Reynolds. Lillian, let me come to you. What are your thoughts? How would you define people skills, soft skills?
Mucha, thank you so much for this conversation. Actually, I'm glad to be here. What I would say, to me, people skills, I look at it as the new hard. Why new hard is because we are looking at it from the point of just saying these are the essential skills. These are the critical skills that most of us, or more all of us, should be having, and therefore it is the new hard.
I love that. The new hard. Wow. I really like that, because for the longest time, we've really been focused on the hard skills, right? So people skills are the new hard. Thank you. Robert, your thoughts?
Thank you so much, Mucha. I want to ride on what Lillian just said. Actually, soft skills are being referred to as relevant skills right now. And for me, definition of soft skills or people skills it's pretty much bringing people back into the workplace. At the onset of the third industrial revolution, everything was so technical and people just did their work. You didn't have to show up to work. And so we were separated, as individuals with our work. And so people skills and soft skills is bringing people back into the workplace. It's helping people to connect with each other, to brainstorm, to create ideas. Because now we live in a heavily knowledge-based society, and knowledge requires self-awareness, and it requires interact with other people. I'll sum it up by saying that, soft skills or people skills is the oil that keeps the engine running. Your hard skills, your technical skills, you're an accountant, you're a data analyst, all of those things are very hard. And then lastly, I would say is, hard skills are very objective, very impersonal. Hard skills, if I'm an accountant, it doesn't matter where I am in this world, the principles of accounting stay the same. But soft skills allow this sort of personality to come through. It allows you to, sort of have some level of subjectivity, but a very respectable level of subjectivity. That's how I would summarize soft and people skills.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think just writing on what you've just said, Robert, the pandemic really showed us how important these soft skills are. I think that's one key takeaway that we can all have from the experience that we've gone through. Robert, let me stay with you. You've written a book about creativity, a book called Blow the Lid Off. Can you give me a very brief overview of the book? And I'd like to ask, how do skills like creativity and emotional intelligence actually fuel success at work?
All right. Thank you, Mucha. Yes, I authored the book, Blow the Lid Off. And the reason I authored the book is in my subtitle of the book. It's to help people reclaim their stolen creativity, increase their income, and let their light shine. I guess in your words, fuel success at work. I wrote that book because I noticed that people were scared of being themselves in the workplace. And people don't realize that your technical skills are not going to set you apart. Your technical skills alone won't help you to climb the ladder, because we need people who can bring their uniqueness into the workplace. I wrote that book because I find that to be very prevalent in licensed professions. We hold on to the title of our profession, a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, and that's it. That's it about us. And the topic Blow the Lid Off is because I want to blow the lid off this conspiracy that only people who are artistic, or guys like Reynolds who are models and everything, are creative. That every single one of us are creative. Every single one of us can have emotional intelligence. That's one aspect of writing the book. The second aspect is blowing the lid off the limitations on our lives, blowing the lid off the limitations on our earning. Jim Rohn says that formal education will earn you a living, but self-education will, what does he say? Formal education will make you a living, but self-education will make your fortune. And that's why I wrote the book. And so to the second part of your question, Mucha, how does creativity and emotional intelligence fuel success at work? Well, the Macroni Institute of Creativity did a research, and they wanted to find out, how is it that people who keep coming up with ideas, how do they keep doing that? Because the idea generation process, starting a business requires a lot of restraint with failure. It requires you to have a very good relationship with failure. Like what you said earlier, we had issues in the backstage going on, but you still managed to push through. And so they did this research, and they realized the one determining factor that allows people to continuously go and push despite challenges, despite uncertainty, is the emotional intelligence. And the emotional intelligence helps to foster that idea generation. And that's how emotional intelligence and creativity fuels success at work. Because your boss has given you a bad review, or you've gotten bad feedback from someone, how do you keep going? And you find a lot of people in the workplace say, hey, I'm not motivated. And so that's why creativity and emotional intelligence drive success at work. I think we might have lost Mucha. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, things we might have lost her.
Yeah. All right.
She's back.
Mucha's coming back now.
I am back. Apologies for that. Yes, I seem to lost my connectivity. Robert, you were sharing about the book that you have written. I lost you at the point where you were sharing. I trust that you were able to give us a good explanation of, why or how creativity, emotional intelligence fuels success at work. I want to come to
Yeah.
you, Ronald. When you consider the pandemic and the impact that it's had on our lives and work, especially now that we're working remotely, how important are these people skills for young people and for their success in the workplace?
Great. I think now more than ever, like getting a good sense of like developing your soft skills is very, very important. One, because the pandemic has been sort of a catalyst of what we were talking about 5 or 10 years ago about what will the future of work look like. Yeah. For the longest time, HR professionals are trying to define like where are we moving in terms of people management, in terms of like ensuring that like our workforce is more motivated and inspired to come to work. And in a very interesting way, this pandemic has been like a catalyst to sort of push us forward. And now when we're working remotely for like majority of us, you find that your communication skills need to improve, because you might find like a lot of the nonverbal cues that we usually depend on to communicate has been cut off. Yeah. So your written communication has to be like stellar, because you wouldn't want to send a message to your manager that comes off as rude or comes off as, that can be misconstrued. So you really have to improve, how am I sending emails? How am I like collaborating with the team? How am I even ensuring that like my work ethic is on top, because when you're in the office, it's very easy to go to your colleague and be like, hey, I'll be late for this and this, but I'll get to you on time. But when you're working remotely, you have to think about, oh, I need to tell so and so that this work might delay, or like we might need to push the deadline further. Like we need to think about like how are we ensuring that as much as you're doing your work, you're not losing your motivation, you're still inspired, and you're still like connected to the team. Because right now, I think, speaking from experience from working from home, you find that you work from home 8 hours a day, and like the whole week you've not seen anyone, you've not been like interacting sort of in a face-to-face manner, and you lose that sort of connection with the team, and it becomes more of like a machine. But like having checkpoints and being able to like assess and take stock of where you are, I think those skills really, really help in terms of staying grounded and staying like inspired and still like connected to your team and being able to like be productive. So those skills now more than ever are important, because I feel like without that personal touch in the office, you really need to be able to develop your soft skills. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Reynolds. I think it's extremely important now that we are in the environment that we are to leverage those soft skills. And to the point that Robert made earlier, I think it was you, Robert, made earlier, that your soft skills are actually what differentiate you, right? Because the technical skills are, a requirement, for certain roles. There are certain technical abilities or capabilities that you must have. But what sets you apart from everyone else is a soft skill. Let me come to you. I'd love to hear your take on the importance of people skills in the workplace. As an HR professional, as an HR expert, how impactful is one's ability to get along with others, to play well with others at work? How much does that impact one's career success?
Not a lot of impact, Mucha. And why do I say so? Is because if you look at, you could be having a staff or an employee who is really talented, who is really good at what they're doing, but if they're lacking that soft skill, if they're lacking the EQ component, then trust me, they will not go far. I believe that EQ actually sets you apart. EQ distinguishes an employee from a productive one. It distinguishes you from actually, I'll just say it accelerates your growth in the organization. And therefore, it's important that we get to learn EQ at a very, very tender stage of our careers. Because at that tender stage, then you're able to climb up the ladder with the right skills. I think it's not about how much I know from the technical perspective. This has already been echoed by my two panelists in terms of me doing my job. If I know my job so well, yes, and I'm lacking that EQ component, trust me, Musha, growth becomes a challenge. And even how I relate with people is another challenge. We have situations whereby maybe you're in a difficult conversation, you're in a difficult, maybe you need to give feedback. But if you do not have the empathy in you, if you're not able to communicate with that empathetic voice, then you'll not come across as somebody who can be considered for leadership roles. So I'm looking at one, it will speed up or rather accelerate your growth within the organization. Very, very critical. It will give you very smooth right, in terms of just connecting with your team members, with your co-workers. These are the people who are always charming. They're always getting along with almost everyone. And you keep asking yourself, how lucky are they? So it's not about luck. There's something that they do have. And this one thing that sets them apart, Mucha, it is EQ.
Yeah, I love that. It's not about luck. I can see Reynolds and Roberts are nodding furiously, and I'm sure you want to jump in. So Reynolds, let's start with you. Your thoughts on that question.
Yeah, I think what I'd just like to add as well from experience as a recruiter and having sat on very many panels with senior level executives is that above and beyond like accelerating your career, it is also what sets you apart and allows you to get a foot in the door. I've been on various panels where we've had to let the top candidate go. They were very good in terms of technical aptitude. They scored like a near perfect score, but just because they didn't have that cultural piece, they were not a culture fit. They didn't have like, they were lacking maybe in leadership skills and were not like they didn't gel well with the panel. They had to be let that to be screened out. So above and beyond like scaling your career, it is also what allows or gives you a foot in the door. Yeah.
Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that insight. Robert, go ahead. I know you'd like to contribute on that question as well.
Yes, very much. Both to Reynolds' contribution and Lillian's also. You know what the pandemic has shown us is that attendance does not equal productivity. And it's really flipped it on its head or whatever it has done. And this is why the soft skills, the people skills, emotional intelligence is very critical. And I find in my practice when I work with clients, etc., people working from home, they are doing the work, but they just don't know how to communicate it, right? And when you are communicating with someone, you're considering that person. What do they need to know? How best do I communicate it, etc. So it helps you be, more self-aware of the situations, right? Number two, the reason why the people skills, what Lillian was saying, it helps you to get into leadership. Right now, all hands on deck for ideas. Because no one alive has gone through a pandemic like we're going through right now. So all hands on deck. It's not just the CEO to come up with an idea, and you have to be able to say, hey, even if I'm counter, what do you think we should do with this product? You need to be able to bring your uniqueness, your perspective to it. Just really echoing creativity and emotions are critical for that, because you have to be able to contribute to solution finding. We live in a world where your business is going to change rapidly year on year. And if you can't relate with people, if I'm the boss and Lillian is my counterpart, I want someone who can ask, hey, Lillian, what do you think about this? She doesn't have the right answer per se. She doesn't even have to be the technical person, but just being able to listen, being able to give me ideas or point me in the right direction, that's what sets you apart.
Wow, fantastic. I'm loving this conversation. And what I'm hearing you all say is that these people skills are actually the key differentiator. These people skills will be the ones that determine how successful individuals are at work. When we look at the idea of people skills, and obviously from my perspective, emotional intelligence is something that is extremely important. Sometimes you may wonder, okay, is there like a long list of what these people skills are? What I would say is that for me, emotional intelligence is not just another skill in the pot of people skills, but emotional intelligence is the plate upon which all these other people skills reside, because your ability to listen is rooted in emotional intelligence. Your ability to accept feedback is rooted in emotional intelligence. Your ability to influence is rooted in emotional intelligence. Your ability to negotiate is rooted in emotional intelligence. And your ability to express your creativity is rooted in emotional intelligence. So each of these skills that help us to connect better with people are, in my view, rooted in emotional intelligence. I want us to continue in this conversation that we're having. And let me just say, for those of you who are watching us online, those of you who are connecting with us, you're very welcome to join the conversation. Please share your comments. Please share any questions that you may have for my panel. You can ask your question directly to an individual if you like, or you may have a general question and you just want to leave it open to anyone to answer. So please do share any questions that you may have for my panel. So let me come to the conversation that we are having. And we're talking about the skills for success as a result of, having come through this pandemic. Lillian, what tips would you give an employee who is keen on investing in themselves and developing their people skills? Where and how can they actually get started?
Mucha, good question. Actually, I would put it is in two fronts. One is by just practicing the basics. So the basics here would be maybe you need to be more appreciative. Appreciate people, learn to be appreciative. So it could be in a way you relate with your co-workers, the way you relate with your boss, the way you relate with one another. So that appreciation actually comes in handy, because it means then you have the feeling of others. You know that if you appreciate someone, that how it translates, you make that person feels good about themselves. EQ actually is about you knowing yourself, you navigating and managing your own emotions, and at the same time also interpreting and managing the emotions of the other person. Therefore, you learn to appreciate more, learn to accept more. How do you learn acceptance? Maybe, for instance, just smiling. Give a smile. It's as simple as that. So to me, I look at it from that, trying to start with yourself before you even go to so I'll come to the second bit, Mucha. The other one will be maybe just learning how to be approve people, have that approval, learn to praise people, learn to, I think everybody everybody likes to be approved. Everybody is seeking that approval. And how do you give approval? Approval just by praising one another. How do you praise that person? If they've done a good job, give them a pat. Just let them know that actually I'm happy, you've done a good job, well done. Trust me, everybody is dying for that. And it does not matter what level. It could be at a junior level, could be at the middle level. Nothing stops you from giving or approving one another. So I think it's high time that we learn how to appreciate, accept just by the way of just smiling, as simple as giving a smile, approving one another. And maybe you can look at also admiration. If somebody is doing something that is so good, just tell them, I admire this about you. So there's that admiration, there's attention also. So those five, I call them the 5 A's. I hope I was not too fast about them. So try to appreciate, approve, acceptance, give attention. How do you give attention? Attention is just by being a good listener. An active listener. When you show people that you're an active listener, you are good at listening, trust me, already you've made them to feel important. You've made them to feel good about themselves. And that is somebody who has good IQ, you have high IQ, and you're able to bring the best out of those people or out of that particular person, and even for yourself, because you'll be able to actually analyze the information that you're listening to. And Mucha, the last one will be actually, because at times you may not be able to walk through this journey alone, then you need to work with experts in the EQ space. And we have the experts, for instance, Mucha, if I just quote you, if you allow me, I think PTS Africa, you're doing a very, very good job. So PTS Africa is a place to maybe check out in terms of how do you now even go outside yourself, because you can develop these, yes, but you need an expert to work with you in that particular journey. We need to be intentional. We need to make a decision of just saying, I need to develop my people skills. I cannot be just, technically able. I think we need to go beyond that. So there's PTS Africa. You can also connect with LinkedIn. LinkedIn, actually, I do see short courses being conducted on EQ. So there are so many avenues, but I would still push the agenda of starting with myself in a simple manner of just giving even, praises. just telling somebody, wow, that was a good job, because I know that how that is, that means, sorry, what that means in their own emotions. Actually make them feel, they'll feel important, and at the end of the day, they'll be better than I found them.
I love that. Lillian, I want you to tell me again those 5 A's. So I've got attention, admiration, approval. What were the
Yes,
other two?
acceptance.
Acceptance.
Sorry, let's start again. Acceptance,
Yes.
acceptance,
Yes.
admiration. There is appreciation,
Appreciation. Yes.
approval, yes, and attention. 5.
I love that. So the 5 A's of connecting with others. And so
Yes.
those are appreciation, admiration, acceptance, approval, and attention. I really love that. The 5 A's of connecting with others. And I like the point you made, Lillian, that in order to build people skills, we start with ourselves. I think that is extremely important. We start with ourselves. Thank you very much for that answer, Lillian. I think that's really great tips on how you can start on that journey of developing your own people skills. Well, let me come to you next as we continue this conversation. I've heard it said that we should take as much care and make as much effort in developing our people skills as we do with planning out our academic path. What are your thoughts on this? Should young people develop a people skills roadmap just like they develop a roadmap for their professional skills?
Yeah, definitely. And even to take it like a step further in terms of when you're in campus and you're planning out like your units and you're planning out like what you're getting out of school, sometimes what we fail to consider is that school is preparing you for developing these soft skills as well. Like when you're put in a group and you're supposed to collaborate that's supposed to teach you how to collaborate in a team. When your lecturer asks you to present, that's supposed to help you like in your presentation skills. But often we usually just go with the flow. We're not even understanding what we are being taught or what we're supposed to develop with some of these tasks or projects that we are given in campus or even in like our masters or postgraduate studies. Yeah. So I think the first thing is like being very intentional. Yeah. Be intentional about what skills you want to develop and how those skills will be able to help you be able to either land the career that you want or be able to help you like progress in the career that you're currently in. I'm assuming young professionals will be between like 0 to 2 years. Yeah. So you're getting into this environment, you're trying to understand what's how to relate to your coworkers, you're trying to understand how to also relate to your manager. So mapping out like these skills I think is very important, and we need to start as early as you can. For myself, I know I joined an organization in campus called ISEC, which is a leadership organization, and we're able to learn so many of these soft skills. And if like your listeners are currently in campus, I would recommend joining like these clubs or associations that will like take you out of your comfort zone, like put you in a setup where you have to interact with people and you have to learn how to deal or manage like difficult situations or deal with difficult people. And like this will help you fast track that, because I remember after I finished campus and I joined my first organization, small things like politics, I'd already seen them in that small level. So there were things that like I could already tell how it's going to run, and I could see what's going to happen, you know. And I believe like being intentional about like learning your leadership skills, communication skills, all these soft skills will go hand in hand with your technical skills. And when you get to that position where you are like in that interview panel or you're up for promotion, it's very easy to like single you out. Like Robert said, these are the things that will single you out. Yeah. So being able to like being intentional about what you want to learn and what that means for your career and your career progression, I think will put you miles ahead of the competition or anyone else who is vying for the same role. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you very much. We've had a number of individuals session from who are members of ISEC. I think that they benefited being members of ISEC. I think it's one of those clubs that has really helped shape young people. as they've gone into the workforce. So great, thank you very much for those insights. Just continuing, Robert, it's been said you are your greatest asset. Invest in yourself. What are your thoughts about this truth?
Thank you, Mucha. My thoughts are I sort of agree with it to a certain extent, but I also disagree with it. I don't know if perhaps because I'm an accountant, I don't believe that you are your greatest asset. I believe you are an enterprise that has a whole basket of assets. And some of these assets are your most of them are your soft skills, your uniqueness, etc. I find identifying myself as one asset, and it's a mixture, but I get the point that the truism is trying to bring up. But we are an enterprise. You are enterprise as yourself. These days, you hear people saying, branding, personal branding, that has a whole mixture of different assets. And, Mucha, the reason why it's important for us to develop that is because, as I said at the start of our broadcast, soft and people skills are very personalized. They're highly personalized. As a matter of fact, I say that creativity is an identity extractor. When you engage with creativity, actually bringing out your identity. I don't think for a moment. I think one of the times when we feel most scared and where our emotions are all over the place is when we are asked to be ourselves. Can you imagine? Like, for example, I ask you, the boss comes into a boardroom, Reynolds is laughing, the boss comes into the boardroom. So what do you think? Like, giving your opinion, that is perhaps, this is one of the most scariest times, right? And creativity helps us to bring out that identity. Another reason why it's important for us to work on us, because I like the way emotional intelligence puts it. It's not just about awareness, but it's also about self-regulation. Too often we are aware of our emotions, but we don't know how to regulate them. We don't know, all right, I'm not feeling happy with the feedback I just got from the boss, but this is not the time for me to muzz and and argue about it. I'm gonna go take a break and reassess. Did he say it objectively? Is he speaking to me? Is he speaking about my work? etc. Number two, nothing in life, absolutely nothing in life, and I would like someone to challenge me on this, grows without some challenge or grows without some sort of stress or some sort of struggle. Every single growth in life has some sort of stress. And it doesn't mean it's negative stress or negative struggle. A seed bursting through the ground to shoot it shoot up goes through a bit of stress. A child being born goes through a bit of stress. Applying for a job, you go through a bit of stress. Presenting yourself before a recruitment team, it does involve a bit of stress. Now, if you're not able to self-aware and self-regulate what's going on during that time, then you're in trouble. I put it this way: what goes on inside of you is much more important than what's going on outside of you. Too often we want to control what's going on outside of us. And and I've been guilty of this early in my corporate career. I run to HR, my boss does this, he doesn't give you feedback. And you want your boss to change. You always want someone to change. But how can you change your approach? How can you change to not allow something is happening to you?
Oh, we seem to have lost Robert. There you go. Carry
I'm
on.
here. Yes, I think I lost
Carry
all
on,
of you.
Robert.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
carry on.
So what goes on inside of us is much more important than what goes on outside of us. Too often we pay attention to the noise outside of us as opposed to the silence inside of us. That's critical. And you can't do that if you don't know yourself. Many of us don't really know ourselves. We may not believe that truism that your greatest asset and you need to work on developing that, because you can't develop what you don't know. So you need to take time to be self-aware, to develop your creativity so that you can extract your identity. And this is the test that I give everyone as I end my comment on this, Lucha, is take away your job title, take away your company. How would you define yourself? You go for the recruitment panel, tell me about yourself. I'm a bachelor's degree, I went to this university. Remove all of that. What would you say?
Wow, powerful. Who are you without those titles that we give ourselves? And, I've had a conversation with individuals repeatedly about how, as Africans, we really pride those titles. We really pride those letters after our name. And it's not to say that those titles or those letters are not important. They are, but they are not the end. They are maybe just the beginning, right? And I think that's really important for us to note. To our audience who are listening, those of you who managed to tune in with us, we're grateful to have you here. And I would love to take any questions that you may have. So if you do have any questions, please share them and we'll be able to answer your questions. You can ask your question to a specific individual. You can ask the question to the audience, to my panel as a whole. What I'd like to do as we look for questions or wait for the questions that are coming from the floor, I'd love to ask each of you if you have an experience where your inability to utilize your people skills actually impacted you in a negative way. So I'm asking this question. I think it would be a great question for our audience to hear. Have you ever had an experience where your inability to utilize people skills correctly, your inability to leverage emotional intelligence has actually had a negative consequence? I'd love to hear if any of you could share such an experience. Robert, you're looking so seriously, digging to that part of the brain where memory resides. I don't know if you have an experience that you could share.
Mucha?
Absolutely.
I think I'll
Wow.
go first.
Yes, go ahead, Lillian.
Okay.
Go ahead,
So
Lillian.
mine is slightly different, and I think it's just good I share because I learned that the people skills is quite important at a very tender stage. I think back at the university, and why so is because I don't believe there's any person who is difficult. The only thing that we most of us do lack is knowing the right buttons, how to make that person tick, what throws him off. So once you know all that, Mucha, then it's very easy to survive with the people around you. So on my side, I would say I've not dealt with such a situation because most of the time you learn, you get to understand the perspective of that person, put yourself into their shoes. Why are they telling you no? And then you understand where they're coming from and try now to actually either tweak your plans, tweak your thinking, and you end up being the best of friends. So you'll find that a manager is difficult, maybe at the time when you are, just very young in our career many years back. So you find that people say, okay, she's always lucky. It's not about luck. I still dwell on that. To me, it's just knowing how to work with everyone, how to get along, even with the most difficult person, whereby she will choose not to say hi to anyone but just you.
Thank you very
And
much
that's
for
where you
that
survive.
insight. Yeah, thank you for that insight, Lillian. Robert, Reynolds, anything you would share? Any experience you have?
Yeah. Mucha, you have just described my entire corporate career. That's been my experience. I've had fantastic results throughout my corporate career. I just climbed the ladder as quickly as my results showed. I could get a lot done. And one thing I didn't realize, and it's a good and a bad thing. I didn't realize it then, but towards the latter end of my corporate career, I did. One of the challenges that I have is I find it very difficult to understand or to, I don't know the right word to say, to understand when someone doesn't get something that I've explained. I think my brain works at like 100 cycles a second. So I can go into a situation, especially when it's chaotic, and I can figure myself out. As a matter of fact, one of my taglines is that I create sustainable structures to chaos. I have no problem. I'll jump in. And when I looked at my career, 90% of my roles were new roles. It was just a new role, undefined, with crazy targets. No, like they just couldn't find anyone. And I take up the challenge and I did it. So I think after doing that so many times throughout my career, and I'll work in a team, problem. Okay, where we like, let's go. Like, can't you see what I'm seeing? And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that I was actually developing my emotional intelligence and my creative abilities without knowing it. And I thought that everyone else was on the same level. So I had a lot of friction because I'll be like, yeah, okay, so if that's a problem, so what? Let's keep moving on because I've already processed emotion and I'm not let it get me down. Now, the good side of that is that helped me wonderfully establish my own consultancy firm. Now I'm a coach, I'm a speaker, I'm an author. Now I can help guide people. I didn't realize that what I saw was potentially a weakness because I got this feedback a lot from HR. It wasn't necessarily a weakness, but I developed it into a strength, and now I coach others. I can help them. I can empathize more why they don't understand something. I mean, still now it happens when I speak. I say like 5 powerful things, and people are like, "Wait, we're still on point 1," and I have to remember, slow down, speak slowly, and understand where people are.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Robert. I think that's a really
Yeah.
key point. When we develop self awareness and understand our strengths, we can see
Mhm.
how those may how those show up as we interact with others. So I like that observation. Reynolds, I'd like to hear your thoughts about an experience you have. As Reynolds is
Yeah.
sharing, we have a question that has come through. So we'll jump to that question from Nancy Mabera after we're done with Reynolds. So Reynolds, your
Okay.
thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, emotional intelligence, it's not really something people can prepare you for if you're not like self-aware and you don't self-regulate. And I remember for me, the one time that I learned painfully was managing upwards, like learning how to manage upwards. Because sometimes, or most of the time, you're told how you have to collaborate with a team or like work with people who are under you, but no one really prepares you for managing the person who's at the top. Yeah. So I remember one instance where I made a really big blunder in a report, and my manager went on and on and on, and I was really frustrated, and like it happened like 2 times, and the third time I was like, no, I need to change my approach. So I learned very quickly that when I make a mistake, I need to come up front and tackle it and acknowledge what I've done and appreciate the feedback and give her like 1, 2, 3 steps that I'll take to ensure that it doesn't happen. Because just coming and saying, I want to do that again, that rarely happens. Yeah. So I learned really fast that my manager likes next steps. You acknowledge what you've done and like have key next steps of how you'll ensure that this will not be repeated. So I think learning how to like take stock and being self-aware is very, very important, because some of these difficult situations that you'll find yourself in, no one will really prepare you for them. And as Robert said, growth often happens in very painful situations or very stress induced situations. So for me, being aware and being like intentional of what I'll do next has really helped me like a lot. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing. We have a question here from Nancy Mabera. I'm going to share it on the screen. And Nancy, I think she is asking you, Robert, but the rest of the team can also share their thoughts. But we'll start with you, Robert. Thank you so much for the insights. How soon can one know him or herself? So, at what age? Most people struggle through their lives without actually knowing themselves. So, Robert, you can jump in and answer that one first, and then we can allow Lillian and Reynolds to also share your thoughts. And for those of you who are tuned in, please share your thoughts in your questions in the comments so that we can continue with this Q&A. Robert, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Nancy, for that question. Very, very good question. How soon? As soon as possible, at any age. I have my youngest daughter is 2 years old, but it takes that insight, it takes that awareness. And we've been helping her realize what situations stress her. Like, for example, when she's crying or she's upset, we ask her, how do you feel? Then number 2, why do you feel that way? You can learn, know yourself by taking time to have a conversation with yourself. I'm not saying walk the streets like a mad person, but you have to be able to observe. You have to be able to observe, and you have to be able to find patterns. This is how I sum it up. I was going to save this for my parting shot, but I'll say it now. Every level of growth first requires a deeper level of insight. And I'll say that again. Every level of growth in every aspect of life first requires a deeper level of insight. And I'll use Reynolds' example. He kept doing the same thing over and over, same result. And it's insanity doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. He had to first get to a deeper level of insight, and that allowed him to get to the next level of growth. And so I'm answering your question. So that age, it doesn't matter with the age. You just once your brain is functioning, you can start to become aware of that. Of course, at an earlier age, you need assistance of a coach or a parent or someone. But once you become, 9, 10 years old, because that's what I've seen in the research, you can become self-aware. The challenge is we are pushed so much from society and from expectations to be someone else that you never really get time to figure out who you are. So start right away by getting insights. And one of the best ways is to get a 360-degree evaluation. Ask someone who's older than you, ask someone who's younger than you, ask someone who's on your peer, ask someone who you work with or who you're in school with. You ask various people and you try to figure out what are the patterns, and then you will be able to get to figure out who you are more. And lastly, sorry, invest in your creativity. Creativity is an identity extractor. Thank you.
Fantastic. Before I come to you, Lillian, I think you have a response, something you'd like to add. And Reynolds, you look like you'd also like to chime in on this. Robert, I wanted to get, I've lost Robert. I wanted to get that comment you made. Every level of growth, I wanted to get that in full. You said every level of growth.
Yeah. Every next level of growth, next level of growth first requires a deeper level of insight. So you got to go down before you can go up.
Yeah, I like that. Every next level. And I think as an emotional intelligence coach, I want to, echo and rubber stamp and say yes to that statement. Every next level of growth first requires a deeper level of insight. It's really important that we understand ourselves so that we can grow. Lillian, so to that question that was shared by Nancy, what are your thoughts? How can someone, or how soon can someone know themselves? Because really most people seem to struggle through life without a clue. What are your thoughts on that? Ooh, Lillian, just hold on. You are on mute. Okay, there we go. Go ahead.
Sorry about that. So first and foremost, Mucha, I think the earlier the better. If you can get to work on your EQ or your soft skill at a tender age, the better. Then it means that you won't struggle so much. You will not have to discover yourself at a later time. You're able to be that good person or the best version of yourself at a very early stage. So I would say the early, the better. If you can get to know yourself at maybe in high school, or even like Robert has just mentioned about his daughter, the way he's working on the daughter's soft skills and EQ. I think that's an excellent job as a parent, and well done, Robert. Again, now from the issue of then how do you get to that? How do you get to that level? Mucha, I think I would advise people to look at the feedback that you get. People, most of the time you feel, I think you get this, you can get feedback, or rather a lot of responses in terms of your character. You find people telling you, you are always, why do you pull faces? Why are you always annoyed? You're always like this. So if people keep telling you the same thing, different people, different environment, trust me, Musha, there is some truth in it. And therefore, if you're a good person, that is the time to just take a step back and say, I think there's some truth in this thing, in this observation or perception. I need to address it. Because if people think that I talk too fast, if people tend to think that I'm not a good listener, I'm not empathetic, and this is Mucha giving me this feedback. Today is Robert in a social forum. Tomorrow it's Reynold at a career fair somewhere. So then it means there's some level of truth. It is high time you, the person, to just get the feedback in a very positive way if you want to be intentional about it. And I'll just quote or echo what Robert has mentioned in terms of getting feedback. Also, you can be intentional by just asking your friends, your family, or anybody very close to you, those people who have your best interests at heart, to just tell them, how do you define me? How do you describe me? Who is Lillian? And then they'll tell you, I think you're this, you don't listen, ABCD. Then you are able to just come up with a very understanding of yourself, because some of us, maybe you are lucky, you have the EQ, an innate ability, maybe you are wired like that. So you could be lucky, yes. But even with that, Mucha, we still need to develop it. We still need to nurture that particular aspect. But if you're not wired like that, then there's a lot of work in terms of self-management. Then there's a social awareness. Then there is a relationship awareness. There's so much. But I can only do that if I'm aware of myself. It starts with me, myself, by being self-aware. And Robert, I still echo what you talked about. I'm aware of myself, yes, self-awareness, but I still need to manage myself. Why do I get annoyed so quickly? Does it mean that I'm short-tempered? And therefore, how does it reflect on the results or on my meetings? So many things. So because one thing leads to another, my behavior will change, my emotions will change. Actually, emotions affect the way we behave. It affects many other aspects of our life, not just career life. So I think, Musha, I'll leave it at that.
Wow, I love that. Thank you very much. Reynolds, would you like to chime in on that answer? We go to another question from Valerie.
Sorry, I lost you a bit. You're saying?
Yes, would you like to
Yeah, I'd like to chime in as well. And I think, just as both Lillian and Robert have said, being able to take stock is very important, and getting feedback from other people as well. And one thing that worked for me personally is being very, like, I'm a very adventurous person, so I like to try out new things and like see the impact of those things on me. So like trying out new things will also help you know, this is something I like, this is something I enjoy, this is something I don't necessarily like or enjoy. Yeah. So being very curious and being very open-minded, I think, will help you like open that door. And then number two, I think the other thing is doing an assessment. You can do like the online assessments, the online personality test, because I know some of them would be like really accurate on how you react with others, how you would be in a relationship setting, how you'd be in a social setting, just as Lillian said, like those other facets. So taking those
Okay. Yes, we lost you for a second there, but I
personality
can
test
see
would
you back.
open. Sorry, yeah. So yeah, those are my two tips.
Thank you very
Mucha?
much, Reynolds. I think that the tips we're sharing are really practical. So I really like that. I want us to go to a question from Valerie. There's a question here from Valerie. And this question actually goes to Lillian, but obviously Reynolds and Robert, if you'd like to chime in, we can do so. My question goes to Lillian. In uncertain times, leaders help their teams to remain calmer and act as a unified team. What tactics did you use to help the team navigate the new norm and keep them engaged? So that's to you, Lillian. Please do share your thoughts.
Good question, Valerie. Actually, what really worked for me and still working for me right now is just the check-ins, whereby I'm checking here is just checking on that person, that particular staff, the entire team. How are you doing? Is there anything else that you're struggling with? What can I do to make, so to me, I think it's just, I'll call it conversation, communication. It really works magic, because most of the time you'll find that right now people are struggling with isolation, anxiety, all that leads to depression. So if we don't, as leaders, if we don't keep a keen eye on conversations. And conversation here, by the way, people think like you must have a whole story around the conversation. You don't need a story. You just need to say, hey, Mucha, how are you doing? How is it going so far? Anything that I need to come in? Those kind of things. And that's it. You don't need to have a story at all. But the fact that you've checked on that particular stuff, but the fact that somebody has checked on me as Lillian, it changes the whole feeling in terms of maybe if I was anxious, do I still have a job? Maybe if I was going through maybe a personal issue, at least my boss cares. At least my team leader remembers that I'm still around. So it changes the whole perception, or rather it changes that particular emotion that I might be going through. So as leaders, I think I still push, or rather advocate for, just let us communicate more to our staff without even having a story, without even having an agenda. Just check in as frequently as you can.
I really like the point you've made, Lillian, where you've underscored without having an agenda. So it's not the check-in that you're doing to see if someone has completed particular tasks. It's not the check-in you're doing to chase up on numbers. It's not the check-in you're doing to see if someone actually working because it's still working hours. No, it's the check-in with no agenda. Just connecting with members of the team to see how they're doing. I really like that. Robert, Reynolds, any thoughts on this question?
Yeah, let me jump in. Just briefly on that is one strategy I use to help my team and even my clients stay calm during this time is where is your energy, helping them to understand where your energy is. I think one of the biggest hits that we've had in this new norm is the drawdown of our energy. If my team person I'm working with is someone who's very extroverted, they get their energy from going to events, going to networking events, etc. That's completely gone, and it's different socially. So first, what I do with my clients and my team is find out where are you losing your energy, and what can we do to replace that? Where can we get your energy reserves? Because I don't know if you guys experience this, but especially the onset of this the pandemic and everything and this new norm, my energy was I was scared. I was tired, and you could tend to beat yourself up and like, no, I've only done 3 hours of work or 4 hours of work. I've actually told my team several times, shut the laptop down and take the rest of the day to recharge yourself, because you don't have those opportunities, especially if you're working from home, your home space, you're working in your bedroom, sleeping in your bedroom, everything there. So you have to be able to identify or map out your energy. And then secondly or lastly is be able to describe how they're feeling. I just like Lillian says, those check-ins, and the check-ins about you as a person. I think Harvard research shows us that we only use about 6 or 8 primary words to describe how we're feeling, but there's a whole like depth of words that we can use. So don't say you're tired, don't say you're sad. I push my team to really describe how they're feeling. Like, if you're feeling tired, what did you feel tired? Are you tired of the same scenario? Are you tired of the same environment? Just like what I said, the growth requires a deeper level insight. And when we get that insight, I find that a lot of times my team or my clients are like, look, I'm just tired because I don't know, I'm just tired. And then we dig deep and then we work that out. I think Mucha
Yeah,
is gone. Reynolds, did you have a thought until she comes back?
We lost
yeah,
Mucha.
I think Yeah, no, I think
Yeah.
the both of you have done a really good job of summarizing what needs to happen, and I'll speak on the side of now the employee or the the sort of the team member who's getting this advice. I think what has worked in our team, or what I've seen also my manager do, is one, just like you mentioned, Robert, is like regulating our energies and helping us to understand like at what point do we need to take a break. Because sometimes it reached a point that she realized we were not even taking lunch breaks. So when you're working from home, like you're the one who determines what time you leave to go on a break. So she even realized, oh, these guys don't even go on break. So she had to institute, you have to take a 1 hour, and you put it on the calendar that you're going on break at this and this time. Yeah. And also like putting a cap on what's the latest you can send her anything or like work on something. So I think on this other side of like the ones who are now receiving the advice, it gives us a lot of energy, and you I think, for personally, I love working for like a manager who's also self-aware and who's emotionally intelligent, because they can be able to detect, my team right now is burnt out, or my team right now is feeling a little bit tired or a little bit exhausted, and we need to do something about it. Because sometimes, often, being on this other side, you're trying to impress, you're trying to go above and beyond, and you don't realize that you're costing yourself in the process of trying to go like above and beyond. So like regulating our energies and having and setting boundaries, I think, is very, very important, and key to ensuring that we remain like calm and remain like motivated and inspired. And also, I think one thing that we've also tried to do as a team is we probably meet up. We've met up, I think, once or twice since this pandemic started. So in a very like socially distanced environment, and just being able to talk outside of work and being able to interact in that setting, I think, has really worked wonders for us. Because at the end of the day, you get to like remove yourself from that work mindset, and you also get to like relax your brain and be able to also interact with your workmates in a more of a social setting. Yeah.
I think good point, Reynolds. Actually, just to Reynolds and Robert, I think I can just add maybe one more item that we might have left out is
Yeah.
just making sure that if maybe you had rituals and traditions before COVID, pre-COVID,
Yeah.
you might just consider also, sorry, you might consider continuing with the same. So you
Yeah.
might not meet, like I think Reynolds, you've just given us a very good example, whereby you are social distancing, but at the same time, you are able to meet up for your lunches or whatever it is, the activity. So I think that is very, very important. You continue with the rituals, the traditions. So maybe it's a pizza Fridays. So you still buy the pizzas, you are doing them, but from a distance. Maybe one is at home, another team, like in our case, we are not all in the office. So there's a
Yeah.
team in the office, there's a team at home, but that particular Tuesday, that particular Friday, we meet up online and we're able just to enjoy our hangouts. We call them hangouts, by the way, so that we are still far apart, but not alone. There is the apartness, yes, but we are not alone. We are together. So I think as leaders, that is another area that Valerie, we need to look, we can look at. And then another one, maybe just to add on, the last one is how about swapping the roles? Because during this time of anxiety and isolation and boredom and everything, if somebody can just tell me that, Lillian, I know you've been doing this segment of training, and how is it? Maybe do you find it a bit boring? You can move from training maybe to recruitment online. I think I'll find it more exciting because now I'm getting to a new space. I'm getting to a better space that is going to challenge my thinking. So that has also worked for us, just swapping the roles with one another. But again, not forcefully. We get to understand with the team members what works for me best. Am I bored with what I'm doing currently because I'm doing it maybe from home? And maybe like if it's for training, it's a bit difficult to do that from my house, assuming I have a small house and I can't be able to be a host like Mucha from the house, the way she's doing one from her house very comfortably. Then I'll be able to say, hey guys, I think I'm a bit challenged. Allow me to do recruitment. I think it's easier. Training can go to another person who has a better comfort level of maybe their space. So that has also worked for me. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much for this conversation. I'm loving it. And I'm looking at the time. Can you believe our time is almost up? Our time is
Wow.
almost up. Thank you so much to everyone who has been tuned in with us. And thank you so much for sharing the questions that you have and, your comments. Sylvester, we see your comments. Glad that you have enjoyed today's session. I'd like to ask each of you to give me your parting shot. So as we, wrap up our conversation today, let's say ladies first. Lillian, if you could share your parting shot, and we'll hear from each of you as we wrap up this conversation. We've been talking today about the skills that are essential for success in 2021 and beyond. So, Lillian, what would your parting shot be?
I think I would say EQ is a skill that can be learned and also can be developed. Let's take an opportunity to just make sure that we learn it, and it will accelerate our growth from the personal perspective to a career level also as well. So I think my parting shot is just to say EQ can be learned, can be developed. Let's do it.
I love that. EQ can be learned, it can be developed. Let's do it. I really love that because it is a skill, right? It is a skill you can develop. Reynolds, what is your parting shot?
Yeah, thank you. I think that was a really beautiful parting shot by Lillian. I think what I would say is I would part with Zig Ziglar's quote that says, "You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great." So wherever level you are at currently, like just put in the work, and you never know. Like in 6 months, I think according to the World Economic Forum, some skills take up to 6 months to learn. So in the next 6 months, you could be far ahead before where you are currently. Yeah. So just you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. And the one thing that has helped me along the way is using the ruler method. So recognizing what emotions you're going through, understanding where they're stemming from, labeling them correctly, like Robert said, like what is it I'm actually feeling, how do you express what you're feeling, and then how do you regulate. So the ruler method has been what I've been using to sort of like manage myself. Yeah. Thank you.
Wow. I told you guys that I had a phenomenal panel who were going to share some amazing insights. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. Is that not a powerful message as a parting shot? And Reynolds has given us the ruler method, which is a really great way to actually get started. Robert, your parting shot.
All right, thank you so much, Mucha, for hosting this conversation. My part in short will be this, that no situation is permanent, including your personality. And your personality is not your job. Your personality is not your job. As you begin this self-awareness journey, you'll discover maybe you're impatient, but that doesn't mean that's how you'll be for the rest of your life. That's just the starting level. You can deeper, you can hone your soft skills to improve yourself. Lastly, Emotional intelligence is key. And I love the way Mucha started this whole session, saying it's the bedrock or the plate on which all other soft skills are built. I firmly believe that, because neuroscientists tells us that when we don't manage our emotions well, we do something that's called downshifting. And downshifting is a psychological response to a new environment, a new situation, with helplessness, fatigue. And this is the question I'll ask each and every one of you to ask yourselves. During this whole new normal, do you feel helpless? Do you feel fatigue? It's likely because you're downshifting. You're using the lower part of your brain to process things. You need to manage your emotions. And when you manage your emotions, you access the higher functioning parts of your brain. You get to unlock creativity. You better manage your emotions. And you will now approach new situations with excitement. Just like what Lillian said, take me to recruitment, I'll be more excited. That's an individual who's emotionally intelligent. You can do it too.
I love that. I love how you started, Robert, that nothing is permanent, including your personality. That really made me laugh. But yes, there are individuals you meet, and Lillian, I know as an HR expert, as an HR individual, I'm sure you've had this experience a lot. And actually, Reynolds, even as someone who's in talent, you meet individuals who say, no, this is who I am. I have a short fuse, as if to say there's nothing that they can do about it. And yet, as we are learning, these soft skills are learnable. You can do something about it. Wow, what a fantastic conversation we have had today. I am just blown away by the insights that we have developed. My panel have said very many things, but here are my key takeaways. Number one, soft skills are the new hard skills. Number two, every next level of growth requires a deeper level of insight. You need to get to understand yourself better. And number three, take time to take stock. Be self-aware, and take time to recharge. There are very many things that my esteemed panel have said. Those are the three that have stuck with me. And, to be honest, if I had time, I would add each of their parting shots as my takeaways. I wrote these takeaways before they had done their parting shots. So if I was to do a do-over, I'd probably use the parting shots they shared, because Lillian said, EQ is a skill. Let's get started so that you can learn it. Reynolds said, you don't have to be great to start. You just have to start to be great. And Robert said that there's nothing permanent, including those traits that you have, because you can actually change them. You don't have to be stuck where you are. You can develop those skills. What an amazing conversation we have had. Thank you so much, Reynolds. Thank you so much, Lillian. Thank you so much, Robert. And thank you for your patience when we were having our slight technical issues. I'm glad that we managed to stay with each other, and you saw me practicing EQ in action. To those of you who joined in a little late because you weren't able to find the link because we had to change the link, this will be available on YouTube, and we will share it across our social media platforms, so you'll be able to at least revisit the part that you might have missed. And I can really assure you that you do want to revisit, because there have been some really phenomenal insights that have been shared by my team. As we wrap up, as I appreciate my panel, what I would like to say is this: it is essential that you invest in yourself, not just as far as your technical skills are concerned, but those soft skills too. Those soft skills actually drive tangible results. They will be the difference between you accelerating in your career or being stagnant. And the beauty about these soft skills is that you don't necessarily have to register for another degree at university. You are able to start with yourself. Earlier, Lillian shared the 5 A's. You're able to start with yourself. And one of the other things Lillian said is that there are organizations like ourselves that can support you. As Africa's premier emotional intelligence consultancy, we want to help you to build your emotional intelligence skills so that you can take charge of your career. The reality is that for the longest time, many of us have believed that IQ was what determines success at work and in life. But decades of research are showing us that people with average IQs are actually outperforming individuals who have a higher IQ 70% of the time. The missing link in determining a person's long-term success is not IQ. Rather, it is emotional intelligence. Your IQ may get you the opportunity, but your long-term success is determined by your EQ. For an early bird investment of 1,000 shillings, just 1,000 shillings, join us on the 2nd of March for the EQ 101 Masterclass and learn emotional intelligence techniques to assess your own EQ levels and better understand your strengths and weaknesses, to understand how emotions work and how you can develop greater self-awareness, starting by knowing yourself, as we've established today. Take control of your thoughts and navigate your emotional state, and reduce and release stress so that it doesn't build up, making you more susceptible to negative emotional reactions. This webinar series is for anyone who is interested in leveraging emotional intelligence to thrive at work. And I'm going to share the link so that you can learn more about this program. Visit our website and learn more about this program. And I look forward to engaging with you next week as we run the EQ 101 Masterclass. Remember, you are your greatest asset. I know Robert put a little twist on this, but allow me to say it anyway. You are your greatest asset. Make that investment today. For a early bird investment of 1,000 shillings, the early bird period runs out on Friday. For an early bird investment of 1,000 shillings, join us for the EQ 101 Masterclass and learn how you can leverage emotional intelligence for success at work. I promise you will not regret it. Thank you for sharing your lunch with us today. We look forward to continuously engaging with you online. Bye for now. Have a fantastic day.